There we go. 3 different forms that I'm working on here. The one I have in front of me right now is my clean you know me. And so I'm going to work through the steps that you just wrote down in your notebook on each of these different forms as it's appropriate. And so you follow along so that you get a better sense of what I was talking about in those steps. So first off, if you haven't finished carving your foot ring, or if you haven't finished carving the sides of your pot, do that first. Here's my wabi-sabi chawan that I carved yesterday. I carved a broken foot and then carved the sides to be really angular. And then this is my more clean one. So I've done those steps already. Next, I want to gauge my thickness. And I've been doing that this whole time I've been talking. I've been kind of feeling with my fingers to feel where the clay still feels kind of thick. And if I have a clean aesthetic, I can just pinch and stretch and thin out those walls, which actually gives me more volume. It makes my you know me bigger, so it's going to hold more liquid. So that's really helpful. The other thing you could do, I can't find my paper clip, but I'll just use this tool. I can also poke a hole through, and if I feel with my finger on the inside, if I feel where the paper clip comes through, and then mark on the actual tool where the tool went into the clay, that tells me how thick my wall is. And then I just have to fill in that little hole that I made. And that's another way to test your thickness. If you're doing wabi-sabi and you feel that there's some thickness there, that's kind of harder to pinch because you don't want to wreck your nice design that you've got going. So then I would take a carving tool, and I would just try and thin out those areas that still feel kind of thick. So thin out the inside of that pot so you're not going to wreck the nice outside that you've already created. So evening out your walls is a big step today. Then you want to take a look at your aesthetic. Does everything look like it kind of matches? Are my marks here similar to my marks here, similar to my marks here, similar to the bottom there? Is my lip kind of matching with the overall look of my pot? Is the inside matching with the overall look? That's what unity is, when everything kind of matches and relates. So with my wabi-sabi pot, everything is kind of rough, everything is kind of square. I might kind of mess up my lip a little bit more here to make it look a little bit more wabi-sabi and a little bit more evened out too, to be honest. And then on my clean you know me, everything is pretty symmetrical, pretty balanced, pretty even, pretty smooth. So there's not too much more I'm going to do here. I've been working on this one a lot already, so it's pretty balanced. Next thing you want to do is test your lip. So if you put your plastic card on the lip, ideally what you want to see is that there's no gaps between the lip of your pot and that card. So test it from different directions. I could see that right here, it was a low spot because when I put the card on there, I don't know if you can tell, but there is a bit of a gap between the pot and the card. So I'm just going to pinch this up to bring it up a little bit higher. The other thing you could do is you could shave your lip using your using your card. And if you just spin it and use your card, it'll flatten it really nicely. Also, I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you have an iPhone, there's actually a level tool on your iPhone, so you can set that on top of your project to see if it sits level. And another thing you can do, if your pot is just a little bit uneven, you could shave that lip, but also you could fix the foot, because maybe the foot is is causing the unevenness. So if my pot just sits a little bit to one side, I could just kind of press down on the side where it's too high, and that might squish the foot just enough to make the pot sit level. So I want you to really pay attention to the levelness of that lip. If you're doing the wabi-sabi, your lip can have a little bit of a wave to it. That's okay. What I don't want is a drastic angle. If your pot sits at a drastic angle, that's a problem. And if your pot has drastic low spots, like really bad low spots that clearly were not intentional, they just were accidental, then you know what? Just take a little extra clay, meld it in, build that back up again so no one can tell that it was drastically lower in that spot. It's totally okay to cheat as long as you're cheating the right way. So your lip is the next thing I want you to check out today. And one of the things that I had a problem with on this wabi-sabi cup, I carved this side to be way thinner than this side. And so one of the ways that I tried to hide that fact is I added my handle here on the side that was too thin. So it kind of helped bulk up that area. But the other thing I could do is I could just carve away the area that's a little bit thicker on this side, so it makes just this lip part look more similar all the way around. Even if way down here, it's not similar in size, as long as the lip looks like it's an equal thickness all the way around, again, that's a good cheat to make sure that it looks like your whole pot has consistent wall thickness. Okay, so once I've done all those things, my next step is to do some smoothing. And if I have a clean aesthetic, my smoothing is going to be really easy. All I have to do is take my wet sponge and just smooth the whole dang thing, and you'll know when you're done when it's smooth. Now, if your clay is getting kind of dry, as you are smoothing, what might happen is you might see a rough sandpapery texture start to come to the surface. So what that means is you've smoothed away the finest clay particles, and what you're exposing is the grog, the stones in the stoneware. So if you see that little sandpapery texture start to happen, take your spoon, take the back side of your spoon, and just burnish or rub that area, and the little rocks will re-embed themselves back into the clay, and it won't be rough anymore. So that's a little trick if you start to see those rocks start to come out. So I'm smoothing the bottom. I got to smooth my lip. I got to smooth my inside as best I can. I just want to smooth everything if I've got a clean aesthetic. That's pretty easy. If you're doing wabi-sabi, if I start to polish and clean with my sponge, I'm going to lose all the character that I gained by doing this really awesome carving. So I'm just going to soften the edges, which means I am barely putting any pressure at all on this sponge. It's just slightly damp, and I just want to take down the sharpest spots. So it's not really smoothing the surface and evening it out. It's just taking down the sharp spots. So I'm just letting it lightly graze over the surface, just so any little sharp bits or little boogers get wiped away, because I don't want it to lose its awesome personality of that wabi-sabi natural look. Okay, so that's the difference. Smoothing, you're applying a lot more pressure and you're actually trying to even things out and level it out. With softening, you're just skating it along the surface just to take down the sharp bits. Okay, so you're going to do whatever technique is appropriate to your aesthetic. Then, if you're going to add a handle, let me make a handle for you real quick. So this is new clay. This is not the clay that I've shaved off. The clay you've shaved off is not in a good consistency for making handles right now. So this is just a new chunk that I grabbed. So if I'm going to make a wabi-sabi handle that I know I'm going to be carving into, I might leave this really big and fat. And when I put it on my cup, I would score and slip, and then I would carve so that the carving on the handle is similar to the carving on my cup. But I'm going to actually have this be for my more clean aesthetic cup. So I'm going to roll it to be a lot thinner. So I'm just rolling it, and it's automatically turning into an oval, which is perfect because I want my handle to be kind of an oval shape. So I've got that, a pretty consistent little oval. If you want to add a little flair to your handle, you can take your card and you can hold it at an angle and scrape the sides of the handle so that you get kind of a spine. See how that's kind of to a point now, a spine on your handle. And then I'm not going to use this whole handle. I'm going to use my card to cut it. I'm going to clean up that edge a little bit. And then I'm going to let it get leather hard in that half a heart shape. So see how it's like half of a heart? If you put the other half together, you get the full heart. So that's kind of the traditional handle shape. And if I were to put it on right now, see how much it moves? It would start to sag. It wouldn't hold its shape. So I'm going to let it get leather hard there. And in the meantime, I have this other handle that I made earlier today that is leather hard. See, I'm holding it and it doesn't sag. And so now that's going to be the handle that I put on my mug. But now look, when I hold it up to the mug, see how it doesn't sit flush against the mug? So I'm going to do a little cut again with my card. I'm going to cut both ends of my handle at an angle. And then I'm going to lay this on my towel so that it doesn't roll around. I'm going to choose where I want that handle to go. Okay, and so now, I don't know if you can tell, but it sits a lot, it hugs the pot a lot better. So I'm going to score and slip the two spots where my handle touches. And then I'm going to score and slip the two spots on my actual handle. I'm going to put them together with a little bit of force because I want that Velcro carved area to really grab onto each other. Okay, so that's what it looks like so far. Then I'm going to take a little additional clay and I'm going to make a tiny, tiny, tiny little rope of clay. And one of those ropes is going to get wrapped around the top connection. And one of those ropes is going to get wrapped around the bottom connection. And that's what I'm going to use for melding. It's similar to what you did for the pinch pots. When you put the pinch pots together, you wrapped a rope of clay around the connection point and use that for extra strength and also for extra clay to help you meld. So I'm just going to use my popsicle stick to meld that extra coil on both areas. And then I'm going to have to come in with my sponge and smooth that too, because sometimes we still see your score marks or we still see that little coil and we don't want to see it. We want to just see smooth surface, especially if you're doing the clean aesthetic. So I have to come in with the sponge and make that look better yet, but I know it's strong, okay? Here's my wabi-sabi handle that I made earlier. So this started off very similar to the other one that you saw me do. And then I've just been taking my card and shaving it so that the handle looks more like the mug. So it has those same kind of angles to it. So adding a handle is not mandatory, but I know a lot of you wanted to add a handle. And so I wanted to make sure that that was clear how to do that. Then when you're done for today, when you've done all your smoothing and everything looks real good, take your 3/4 picture. So this would be a great example of a 3/4 picture because you can see the inside and you can see the best view and you can see your handle. All right. If you have a handle, I don't want to be like this because I can't see your handle then. So give me the best side view and make sure you're holding your camera up high enough so I can see to the inside a little bit. So I kind of get all the views from a 3/4 view. So those are your steps that you're going to be following today. Let's see here. I'm going to stop.